Kia ora koutou katoa, it's Mrs. Goodson here, and this is lesson 13, all about science investigations, and specifically for our science investigation into respiration for biology 1.1 for NCEA. And this video is about processing data for a science investigation. So you've planned your variables, you've written your method, you've carried out your method and collected your data, put it in the results table with the unit showing and everything beautiful. What are you going to do with your results? Okay, so for the standard, you're actually going to get some numeracy credit. So some of the numeracy skills that you're going to use in this standard, the first one is to round numbers. Okay, so rounding. If the next number is a 1, 2, or 3, or 4, you round down. If the next number is a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, you round up. You round all numbers in a report to the same amount of decimal places. Taking the average. You also, because we're going to do 3 different trials for each independent variable, we are going each value of the independent variable, then you need to be able to take the average. Another word for average is mean. So in mathematics, we tend to say mean. In science, we say average. Step 1, you add all the numbers together. Step 2, you press equals on your calculator. And step 3, you divide the sum by however many numbers or trials there were added together. And generally we do 3 trials. So you need to practice your averaging and your rounding. Units are really, really important because if we're going to count something, we need to really communicate what we're counting. If we're counting bananas, we need to say 3 bananas. If we're counting centimetres, we need to say centimetres. You must convert all measurements to a single unit. That just makes it a lot clearer. We just try to avoid decimals and convert to the smallest unit. So when you think about accuracy, if we say you're using a stopwatch to the nearest hundredth second, that's not very helpful because a hundredth of a second, we're not really going to be that accurate. So that's too precise. So we're going to round to the nearest whole number in most cases at level 1 science. In science labs, this means often we need everything in seconds, time in seconds, because if we have some minutes and seconds and some seconds, then it's going to make it hard to add it together and average it. So if we want to change something from minutes to seconds, for example, we want to change 1 minute 13, that's the value that comes up on our stopwatch, to seconds. We multiply the number of minutes by 60 because there's 60 seconds. So multiply it by 60 and then add this bit on here. Okay, so that would be 60 plus 13 is 173 seconds. So you need to be able to change from minutes and seconds, what you get on your stopwatch, to seconds and put that in your results table. Once we've got our averages or our mean values for each independent value, the value for each independent variable, we're going to do a graph. Graphs are used to show a picture of the data so that a trend can easily be identified. Usually in science, we use a graph to help us decide if there is a relationship or some sort of connection between 2 things. And by 2 things, I mean variables. So there's a few things we look for when we're marking graphs. We want to include a title that tells us what the graph is about. The independent variable goes on the x-axis. That is the horizontal axis. That's the one that goes along the bottom. The dependent variable goes on the y-axis, y to the sky. That's the one that goes up. So this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis. Then you plot the averages. Because we've taken the averages, we don't need to worry about the others now. We just plot the independent variable versus the averages. And if it's numeric, then we can do a line graph. But if we've got categories, then we do a bar graph. All right, so we need to practice our graphing skills, doing scales, plotting values. And so this video has been about identifying data points that might not fit, and we'd leave those out of our average, and how to calculate an average and other numeracy skills, and then plotting a graph with title, scales, axes, labels, units, and a best fit line. So we need to practice our graphing skills for this assessment.